everybody? Welcome to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Jesse Cofield, and I both holding it down in the very festive DraftKings studios here in Boston. We are brought to you by Wrangler, made for the ride of life. Save 15% on your first Wrangler.com order with promo code GOJO15. Got a great show for you guys. As always, download, subscribe, rate, review, 5-star rating. Check us out live Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the DraftKingsNetwork.com, DraftKings YouTube channel, Samsung TV Plus, and more. Fun guests coming by today. Washington Huskies head football coach Kalen DeBoer is going to join us here. One of the four coaches now remaining heading into the Final Four for the college football playoff, has also been named the AP Coach of the Year, in addition to the Home Depot Coach of the Year, in addition to some other Coach of the Year award there. He's racking them up left and right. And then, speaking of award winners, Miami Dolphins linebacker Bradley Chubb, the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, going to join us here now. Dad, when you were with the Miami Dolphins, were you ever named AFC Defensive Player of the Week?
I was not. Normally when you have 11 and a half sacks in 9 years, while, again, I call that consistent, it is not going to get you anywhere. Though there was a game I had 2.5 sacks against when the Eagles, when we as a defense had 11 sacks against the Cowboys in '89. In the first meeting with them, we had 11. Clyde Simmons had 4.5. I had 2.5. So an offensive team plays horribly bad when somebody like me has that many sacks. I mean, in that one game, I got basically 1/5 of my career sacks in one game. So to answer your question, Mike, and to start off by dissing your father, no, I have never gotten the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, nor when I was with Philadelphia was I ever going to get to the NFC Defensive Player.
That was kind of a tough deck stacked against you on that one. And to be honest, this is not to old shame you at all, but I wasn't aware they were giving out those awards back when you played in the NFL. I figured they were still figuring out, how to get those things out in sheets of paper and fax machines back then, so it was more trouble than it was worth.
There are times I hate you, and there are times now where, as I said, we all don't love our kids the same. You are now third. Jake is second. And Sydney, quickly, happy birthday to your sister, Sydney. Sydney is 29 today with a young child, just over a month old. So all going well for her. So I know we've already wished her a happy birthday. But it brought me to a point, gang, that
oh boy.
As I text my wife this morning, I said, we are 1 year now away from all our kids being 30 and older. I mean, that is horror, and neither one of you have any clue about that. That is horrifying. It is horrifying to think, there's no way I'm that old, yet I'm that old.
Does that make you feel older than the fact that two of your kids now have kids? I figured that was going to be far more damning than all three of us being over 30.
No, because quite honestly, everybody could have started having kids. We started having kids early, in the mid-20s. So you can have a kid a lot earlier, so you can have kids at different times, but you can't move the clock back on your birthdays and how old you are. So yeah, this is a next year will be a tough moment. How old are your kids? They're all in their 30s. I don't want to talk about it.
I think also it'll be a tough moment because you should probably start saving now for that 30th birthday present for Sydney.
True.
It sounds like she's going to need something really special,
There is an electric Range Rover coming out pretty soon that I know she's very keen on.
An electric Range Rover. Sydney, happy 30th birthday. I know it's in a year, but we're gonna make sure that happens for you.
This was going to be my thing, though, as a potential get-out-of-jail-free card is I feel like a lot of time when women do the joke about how, they don't want to say their age, 29 ends up being the cutoff age. Dad, you guys could just go into the agreement with Sydney that she wants to do that thing, how old are you this year, 29, and just do that forever.
She will not. She's not one that cares about age too much, but she will lean more to what Jesse said. So, Jesse, I will say when Sydney is ever in town or you guys are in the same room, stay away from her, okay?
Okay.
Because you're a bad influence.
Well,
of what I already and my wife already have to deal with her and money we have to spend. And you're just encouraging that in a big way. So I'd like you to.
That's called women supporting women.
That is true.
Women supporting women. And I will ask, she just had her baby. What did Ben get her? What was her push present?
That's one of the greatest phenomenons, Dad. Was there anything resembling the idea of a push present back when you and Mom were coming up and having kids? Because this is a very real thing that I have heard from a lot of people.
So you have said a push present. I don't even. When you first just said it here, I had no idea what you were talking about, and then I deducted with smart reasoning. Okay, you push a baby out, you get a present. No, there was no push present. Well, I mean, seriously. Seriously.
Her whole life is a push present.
Why? I mean, it's exactly right. She's pushing out presents left and right. Seriously. Come on, a push present. There's already enough days out there that are just traps where you're supposed to buy gifts that are just ridiculous.
I don't know. Ripping your body open to provide a child seems like a maybe you should get a little something for that.
Hey,
I don't know.
My present, the guy's present is there 9 months earlier for a couple of minutes, all right?
Oh, God.
That's the present.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
Well, I bet Sydney got one, so I want to know what it is.
I'm telling you, that's a great question. I'm going to say, boy, Ben's a good guy, Mike. Do you think maybe he thought of that and we did? I mean, that's the thing. Sydney would have said something about it. So
yeah.
I don't think it happened.
Like, it's not like it's like everyone gets a push present these days. It's very standard.
It's like, what did you say it was?
De rigueur. Isn't that de rigueur?
What is that?
It's like
what is that?
Colloquialism. I don't.
Oh, man.
Let
All
me
right.
just.
This got way too smart and way too expensive for me.
Yeah, de rigueur. That's what it is. Required by etiquette or current fashion.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's a caviar word.
Sorry. It is a word, though.
It is absolutely a word. Okay. We will give you credit for that. As someone that has seen the Barbie movie, I will endorse push presents because I am an ally and against the patriarchy and all its horses.
And horses, yeah.
Mostly because I don't have to get anyone one.
Yeah.
I have just been informed that Sydney did not receive a push present.
That is the upset of the century, honestly.
Wait, so are you going to tell me that you now think less of Ben because he didn't get her a push present? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I don't think less of Ben. I'm just surprised that Sydney didn't want I feel like it's very standard these days to get a push present. I guess she didn't want one. That's to each their own. I'm just surprised.
I think at that point, Sydney just wanted to not be pregnant and wanted to mainline a sandwich from Sourdough World. I think that's what Sydney wanted at that point.
That was her push present.
Her push present was fresh cold cuts because she had been deprived of that for so long.
I mean, that's a dream.
Who among us wouldn't want to shove a Sourdough World sandwich directly into our neck after introducing life into the world? This went off the rails in ways I couldn't have predicted, and so here to steer it back onto the ship, Jesse, we are going to look ahead at Thursday, three for Thursday. Three questions heading into the NFL weekend about Thursday. We'll get to some signing day stuff coming up here soon. We got a lot of stuff to get to that. But we got questions that need answering right now. And, Dad, I want to start off with this. So many eyes have been on the Miami Dolphins in this last week here. A lot of great content. We're obviously going to talk to a Dolphin today. We saw the Mike McDaniel speech about accountability coming off the Tennessee Titans loss there. And now they were able to rebound famously this week. You had the Dallas Cowboys who were on the other side of that, getting humbled by the Buffalo Bills. And so, Dad, the first question going into this week, yes or no, the Dolphins are finally going to pick up a win against a good, air quotes, team this week in the Dallas Cowboys?
Man, this is a tough one because especially of what Dallas is coming off of just getting smoked by the Bills. You start to think Dallas is one of these teams that's on that roll, and then they get smoked last week. The game's in Miami. What's interesting in this one is we sit here and talk about the offensive line, especially with Miami. These defenses they're both top 6 defenses. Dallas is number 6 and Miami's number 5. Miami is second, and Miami has 48 sacks, second only to Baltimore with 50. I did not really realize that of how much they had gotten. I know they have a good defense, but how much they have actually gotten to the quarterback. Their defensive numbers are kind of the same here. And there's part of me, Mike, that wants to lean actually to Miami in this one because of the big playability. So when teams are close, and offensively, listen, Miami has the number 1 offense in the league. They're averaging more rushing yards than Dallas as well. I think right around 140 a game, something like that. So I just think in this one, Miami has the chance to have more big playability than Dallas does. Both defenses can make a play. But I am, after talking about defenses, I'm going to separate this on the offensive side of saying they have the home run ability more than Dallas does, playing at home in Miami for this one. So I actually think I'm going to lean to Miami getting that big win against a really good opponent, which is going to have to happen for them if they want to make any move in the playoffs, obviously.
Boy, and imagine how irresponsible the takes would be if we got Dallas losing 2 in a row to Buffalo, to the AFC East, and their contenders after all we had talked about with them getting ready, all this renewed hope around them, Dak Prescott as an MVP candidate, how quickly that would go to hell in the last 2 weeks here. I would say this, Dad, for me, the swing state is going to end up being the health of the Dallas offensive line. We know Zach Martin left in the middle of that Buffalo game after taking a knee, what appeared to be the quad there. Both him and Tyron Smith didn't practice yesterday on Wednesday for the Cowboys. Now, both of them as veterans on that line tend to get a lot of rest days anyway. They're guys that'll get those vet days off during the week. And I do feel like, Dad, we've seen for this Dolphins team in particular, if their offensive line is at all compromised and they're going up against a defensive front that can get consistent pressure on Tua Tagovailoa, they tend to run into some problems because while we look at the Tennessee Titans game, Dad, and say, well, they had that one sewn up. Miami was up 2 touchdowns with 3 minutes left. They were in a situation that hardly anyone ever loses. How they got there was because of some embarrassing blunders by the Tennessee Titans, right? Backed up in their own red zone, making big mistakes and handing the Dolphins offense easy yards. The Dolphins were not moving the ball all over the place on that Tennessee defense. And when they had an offense that could actually afford them some measure of relief, Tennessee was able to have some success. I kind of throw out the Jets game last week, Dad. That Jets offense was an abject disaster. Their offensive line couldn't protect Zach Wilson at all. You had him go down in the first quarter of that game. So that to me is not really indicative. It's a great outlier performance, but I think it's just that. So I'll say if the Dallas Cowboys offensive line is healthy, I'm counting on them getting back on track because that group can sustain more even against this great pass rush. The only thing that worries me for Dallas, Dad, and how we've seen is how turnover dependent they've been on defense. They're third in turnover differential in the NFL. They've on offense lost the second fewest fumbles, so really skewing in favor of some fumble luck for those guys. And I worry if that evens out at all for the Cowboys, what might happen, because we saw that defense get punched in the mouth. I just don't know if the Dolphins' rushing attack, it's got a lot of speed. Devon Achane is a great rusher, but I don't think they're necessarily as much of a downhill outfit as what gave the Cowboys trouble against Buffalo, and I think that style matters.
So let me ask a quick follow-up question to this. Do you think Miami loses the division to Buffalo when all is said and done? Miami, they play the Cowboys, then they're at Baltimore. And Baltimore is still going to be playing for that first seed. I don't think they're going to have it locked up by then. At least I don't believe. Maybe they will, but if they don't, Baltimore. And then they finish at home against Buffalo, and Buffalo beat them earlier in the season. So those are 3 hard games. And if they lose one of the next 2, then and Buffalo wins their next 2, then that game is going to decide it. If Buffalo beats them, they'd be tied in record and they would have swept. So I have a feeling Miami may lose this division. I think they can win this game, but they might lose this division.
I do. I think Buffalo is going to come back and take this division the more and more we sit with this now. And I understand for Miami, they're going to say, well, if Tyreek Hill comes back, this is a very different team than the one they saw at Tennessee. He didn't practice yesterday either. But no, I think they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose one of the next 2 based on what both of these teams propose. 2 of the best teams in the NFL in Dallas, and certainly you could argue the best team in the NFL, maybe south of San Francisco, in the Baltimore Ravens. So yeah, I think the Bills are in pretty good shape down the stretch to officially cement themselves as the team nobody wants to see in the postseason. So I'll go Cowboys. I think you're going Dolphins in this matchup here. Jesse, let's take a look at our next question here as we want to talk about a team struggling right now. Look no further than Emerson Lotzi's Jacksonville Jaguars, America's team.
Earmuffs, Emerson, earmuffs, please. Jags have dropped 3 straight. They face an interstate rival when they travel to Tampa to take on the Bucs, winners of 3 straight. So ahead of this Week 16 matchup, we had head coach Doug Peterson talking about what it's going to take for his team to pull themselves out of this slump.
Figuring out, how to win a game right now. And, it's, everybody has to pay attention to their job and just do what they've been asked to do. Coaches, players, we try to keep it simple so they can play and play fast. somewhere somebody, make a play like last week, Jank gets the interception, but we don't capitalize as an offense type thing, so it's we don't go searching for them, but we need to make the ones that show up and present themselves, and sometimes it may not be pretty, but if you can figure out a way to get it done, it helps you.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. All right.
Guys.
Just figure it out. So, guys, my question for you is this. If they lose to Tampa, what do we think? Are the Jags going to end up being the odd man out of the AFC playoff race here? They will have lost 4 in a row.
They will. So I will say, Dad, I went on the New York Times NFL playoff predictor and played it out here. And if the Jags win some combination of 2 of their next 3 games, they're going to wind up with about a 94% chance of making the playoffs. Their next 3 games at the Buccaneers, like we talked about for this upcoming match, and then home against the Carolina Panthers, which should be a dub. Atlanta Falcons fans, avert your eyes. And then at the Tennessee Titans to finish off the season, which is kind of a landmine game, Dad. We've seen Tennessee on one week, if you get Will Levis chucking great passes, DeAndre Hopkins, that defensive front can make things happen. They can be a dangerous one. So while losing this game would feel dire, they would have 2 more winnable games after that would still have them around the same odds to make the playoffs as if they won this game and maybe gave up one against the Titans. If they win all 3, then it's 99%. It's a lock. They control their own destiny there, but this one no doubt goes a long way.
Certainly a difference of you and I looking at things. I did not go on the playoff predictor because I don't look at the prediction stuff. I just look at the fact of who the teams are playing and how they're playing. We do go about it in different styles, I will say that, but the results could be the same. For me, it's basically, Mike, I don't trust the Colts enough or Houston enough to overtake Jacksonville. Jacksonville only has 1 loss in the division. They have 1 game left, and that's Tennessee. And I agree with you. Tennessee can be that thorn in the side. Houston plays Tennessee in a couple of weeks, and Tennessee can mess them up as well. But they've only have 1 loss. They swept Indy in this division. They split with Houston. So they have, as you mentioned, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Tennessee. The Colts, who they swept, have Atlanta, Las Vegas, and Houston. That's going to be a good matchup, Houston and Indy in the last week. And Houston has Cleveland this week, probably without C.J. Stroud again. I don't know if he has officially been listed out yet or not. Then they have Tennessee and Indy. So to me, my prediction is I don't trust the rest of the division, and I think Jacksonville can drop a game in here and still win the division. I still think overall they're the best team in that division, but it's kind of turning into a division. Avert your eyes, NFC South. In the NFC South, they're all 7-7. It's not like the AFC South is much better at 8-6, right?
Yeah.
Where they're kind of all hanging at. So I say they're still going to get it done.
I would agree. I think they get it done. We'll move on and get the last one in here, Dad. Yes or no? The Minnesota Vikings will make the NFC North an interesting with a win at home this week over the Detroit Lions. You saw the Lions in their resurgent performance against the Denver Broncos this past weekend, Dad. This feels like a tough one to try and convince me of, as great as this Vikings defense has been. I just think now that you've got the Lions back indoors a little bit healthier, they're going to get back into their mode.
I will be shocked, in all honesty, if Minnesota beats Detroit here. Detroit got the roll going again. We've talked about the depth on the offensive side of the ball for them with the 2-headed attack at running back and how Jamison Williams is really coming on, along with obviously St. Brown and Laporte and what they're doing. So I like the role that they're on right now. I like what they did last week to Denver and how good they look. So I see them continuing that. I see Dan having them continue that, and I don't see it happen for Minnesota.
Yeah, unfortunately, Minnesota, just too much churn for so much of the important part of that roster. The quarterback, one of the many teams that's taken a ride along the quarterback roller coaster all season long, going to run into a Lions team that might not be the Super Bowl contender we thought, but absolutely a team still capable of getting into the playoffs and making something happen. Coming up next, let's take a look back at yesterday. A bunch of talented young people put pen to paper. We'll take a walk down memory lane and a look into the future for your favorite team.
to GoJo and Golic. So we got a college bowl game tonight as the South Florida Bulls battled the Syracuse Orange in the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl. Okay, both teams coming into this one at 6-6. Yeah,
that could be a real dangerous one if they want to dump the bowl game sponsor on the winning coach here. Drop the roof on him like he's the Wicked Witch of the East.
Someone is getting absolutely crushed by some plywood tonight. Syracuse currently favored by 3 going into this one. So guys, this visual is sending me. While bowl season is well underway, okay, biggest news in college football yesterday was National Signing Day. Okay, so we got to get into this. During his weekly press conference, Ohio State head coach Ryan Day learned his team had landed the #1 recruit in the country, Jeremiah Smith.
Really?
Yes, really. It's real.
Jeez.
There's pictures, there's video. How nervous were you?
You want to take us through your emotions real quick? How you feeling?
You got to address
The floor is yours.
You got to address that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if everything's in yet, Jerry. You got to check to make sure it's in.
Hey, Mike, you want to check with Justin?
Yeah. Before I do something and get myself in trouble.
You're still flipping right now, though? What's going on?
It's been flipping for a while, Tim. Yeah. Okay, what was the question?
Ryan Day just fully blacking out as soon as that happened.
It's the heavy breathing for me. We cut to that clip and it was just...
But this is what recruiting does, and this is what is it's such a good reminder as we talk about the way it's all changed with the portal and everything else. Ryan Day is one of the most accomplished coaches in college football. He's a household name at one of the best universities in the country and one of the biggest recruiting juggernauts in the country. And yet that man is still reduced to that by what goes on with signing day here. Dad, we know this is the first of 2 national signing days. This is the quote-unquote early signing period that got introduced right now. So you've got this going on in the midst of all the transfer stuff here. But the way you hear a lot of coaches still talk about this, and Marcus Freeman, the head coach at Notre Dame, said this yesterday, we don't want to major in being a portal team. We still want to build through high school recruiting. And so getting a player like Jeremiah Smith at a place with as rich a receiver talent as Ohio State has is still a massive win and still something that matters a lot to the way that they want to construct their program, as seems to be the case with a lot of the other people. Because you look at the top 5, it's still Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Miami. It's the usual blue bloods in here who are still trying to go about building their programs in a similar way.
But the unusual thing is, look at Georgia. There was an article the other day of the amount of players that were leaving in the portal. 4- and 5-star players that were leaving. There was also a note about Alabama's wide receiver class 2 years in a row. I don't know if it was 2021 or 21-22, all left in the portal. So, Mike, I'm not going to lie. I don't know what signing day means anymore. I don't, especially at the quarterback position. You know, we just had Dylan Raiola, the top quarterback in the country, Dominic Raiola, who played, at Nebraska and then the NFL for a ton of years, playing at Pinnacle Peak in Arizona, moved to a Georgia high school because it committed to Georgia, then flips to Nebraska and signs with Nebraska. But if it doesn't work out there, he could probably go back to Georgia. So I don't know what it means anymore, in all honesty. These coaches are going to talk about what a great day it is. But then next year, let's see who's in the portal. Quinn Ewers is a great example. I mean, he was at Ohio State for a year, right? Signed the great NIL deal, and now he's gone to Texas. So while it's cool, the rankings and everything, but I almost throw them out now because look at the class that they bring in, and then 2 years from now, let's see how many are left, especially at the top positions. Now, this kid, this wide receiver, I have a pretty good idea he's going to stay. Ohio State has been phenomenal at the defensive back position, wide receiver position, D-line position. They're just bringing such great players, and they dumped their quarterback in Kyle McCord, who went to Syracuse. Oh, by the way, Cam Ward from Washington State tried to go to Ohio State, but word is he wanted $2 million, and they laughed at him. So I mean, we're in such a different place now, college football-wise, that while you're happy on this day, I'd love to see the percentages in 2 years of the guys that are still there.
Dad, I think you should think of it like this. The way NFL teams think about draft picks, when we have this idea of trading back, stockpiling picks, you want enough entries to the lottery to give yourself a better chance of winning. And for all these schools, you're trying to amass as much 4- and 5-star talent as you can, build a bedrock, understanding attrition's now built more into the model than ever before. And when you think about it, for Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, some of these places that have been, especially at quarterback, big-time hubs of talent, we've seen guys like that leaving before. You mentioned some of the guys early in the transfer window now. I mean, look, that's how Joe Burrow ended up at LSU, because he was the odd man out of an Ohio State quarterback battle. So it's not a totally new phenomenon. It happens with a bit more frequency. And you think for the most part, at places like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, you've still got the backdrop of, hey, we send more guys to the pros, or as many guys to the pros as anybody else here. So you've got so many things working in your favor that, yeah, this I think is always still going to be the baseline for your program. And yeah, you're going to have to go about retaining that talent a little bit differently than you ever had to before.
Yeah, and that's good. That's the thing. How do you retain the talent unless that talent's on the field, right? Because that's what players are looking for, which they have every right to do. And then if they don't get it, they move on. So, and this is mostly true because we've seen, what was it, 5 of the last 8, whatever it was, of the Heisman Trophy winners were transfers. So I get that's been going on a while, and we focus on the quarterback, but in totality, the numbers are staggering of players that switch teams. As I said, look at the Georgia recruits, guys that have been there that left. The numbers are amazing that have hit the portal outside of the quarterback, but we kind of focus on the stars and the quarterback of this. So it really is, can you get the quarterback? How soon does he get on the field before he's going to leave, right? Dylan Raiola saw Carson Beck coming back to Georgia, so he jumps ship and goes somewhere else.
And that might have been a part of it, not the whole part of it, right?
Maybe,
like these are all factors in the process. So I agree with you there somewhat.
So then a place like Notre Dame, you're bringing in quarterbacks. You have a quarterback there. You're bringing in CJ Carr. Now that's a big time recruit. Will he have time to build, or is that the plan for Notre Dame? They went, one hit wonder again this year. When Carr will be there, then is it going to be, if he pans out to what everybody thinks he can be? Will they have a 3-year starter at Notre Dame at the quarterback position? And I'm just using Notre Dame as the example because they've gone to the portal for a quarterback with Sam Hartman and now with Riley Leonard. So anybody they've brought in to develop behind them stays behind those guys, and at some point is going to say, screw it, I'm out.
Well, I think there's, the hope that, hey, if you're at a place like that where you've got a young guy coming in, the best thing that could happen is, what if it turned into a full-blown competition because CJ Carr came in and was so effective so much, he's already on campus. So many of these guys can get on campus now, practice with the team during bowl season, do all these different things. But if not, then, yeah, I think that's the hope. And again, Pete Sampson, who covers Notre Dame for The Athletic, did a great article about how that Notre Dame class came to be in particular. And I think it's a good proxy for what other strategies might be around the sport. And for them, it was about identifying players that they believed they can retain throughout this process. They didn't lose a commitment during the season. They were able to keep this class together. And so maybe that gives you the belief, because I've said the biggest weapon that you're going to have as a coach, and I've talked to Mac Brown and others about this on the record of, hey, you've got to be honest with your players at every juncture, and you've got to do right by them, even if it's not with you at this particular place, because that word of mouth still matters. So if you build it the right way, you believe you've identified the right people, then I think you give yourself a better opportunity in your mind of keeping these guys around, even if it is, hey, you're going to wait a year while this older guy in front of you plays one out. And then, as Marcus said, we want to build through high school recruiting. We want you to be the guy.
It's a great point, because it is a two-way street in the portal. There are players that want to leave, and then there are coaches, and they do need to be honest and tell these players, hey, you're going to have a tough time getting on the field next year. You may want to think about your future. So they kind of get these players to think about it, and they end up transferring.
It is a far cry away from fax machines and all the things that went on a little over a decade ago, back when I was putting pen to paper. Coming up next, we'll sit down and talk to Bradley Chubb from the Dolphins here on GoJo and Golic.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. The Dolphins are sitting at 10-4 and first in the AFC East. They just trounced the Jets, but have to face the Cowboys and Ravens in quick succession here. So the fellas had a chance to catch up with Bradley Chubb, who leads the Dolphins in sacks this season with 9.5, about the tough stretch coming up for them.
All right, very excited to be joined by the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, Bradley Chubb from the Miami Dolphins, joining us now. Bradley, what clicked this weekend, man? You went off 3 sacks, a couple of forced fumbles. What felt good out there for you?
To be honest, man, everything felt good, man. Just the preparation throughout the week. Felt like it was a short week, so it was a lot of mental that went into it, not too much physical. And then, we just bought in on the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball. Everybody had a little nasty taste in their mouth from the week before, man, and we just kind of wanted to go out there and prove who we were as a team. And sometimes it just felt like it wasn't real, the plays and stuff. But at the end of the day, man, I had great guys around me, man, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do without them.
Please tell me you win something for that. A car, something, a scooter, a motorcycle, something for that?
Nah, nothing like that. But I do get a cake from our guy Joe Casper this week, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty nice. I like that.
All right, love to hear that. You mentioned getting the bad taste out of your mouth from last week. Obviously a tough setback there. What was the message from Mike McDaniel when it came to you guys going into this short week and trying to get past that?
Just to finish, man. Finish, because I feel like, we had the game won at the end of the game. That's how we felt. That's how we looked at it. But at the end of the NFL, man, you don't have any game won until the clock strikes 000, man. And we learned our lesson, like I said, man, and we're not taking any opponent for granted, any play for granted, because you never know what's going to be that play to change a whole game at the end of the day. So taking each play by play and making sure that we attack, each play as it comes to us and not trying to do too much, do too little. And that was just his message to us, man, go out there and finish this week.
How's it been with Vic Fangio, your D coordinator? He was your head coach in Denver, so obviously still that defensive philosophy there. But from head coach to coordinator, how that change was?
I feel like it's been a smooth change, man. It's not really too much different because, being on the defensive side of the ball as the head coach, he would talk to the defense as well. So kind of that aspect of it is the same, man. But I would just say it's probably like a little less off his plate in terms of total having to figure out what the team needs. Kind of just has to worry about one side of the ball. And, man, he's been doing a great job of just like leading us into understanding why he's calling calls in certain situations and why he's doing this and that. And it's just allowed us to go out there and play fast, man. So it's been a good reunited, service that we've been having with each other, man. And it's been dope to go out there and play for him again.
I'm always interested in how different players prepare, from studying a game plan to practice to personnel you're playing against. You guys are playing the Cowboys this week, known for a heck of an offensive line. Take us into how you prep between film study and watching players you play against, how you prepare for a team.
Yeah, so me, man, so Sunday comes, we play the game, boom, boom. As soon as that game's over, I watch exactly the whole game, like probably 3 or 4 times, just to see what I did, see what the defense did, see what what I could have did better, whatever the case may be. And then as we come in that Monday, we got to watch the film again as a defense and go over the corrections, go over the good plays, the bad plays. And then that Monday night, I kind of just take a reset from football, just hang out with my girlfriend, just chill, watch a show, Monday Night Football, whatever the case may be. And then Tuesday, that's kind of when the prep of the week starts, man. Just starts looking at the offense in general, see the schemes that they run, the different type of run plays that we're going to get, the different type of blocks and stuff. And then Wednesday, I start going to the actual matchup with the pass rush stuff, like the actual tackle, how he sets, what he does, blah, 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 all that type of stuff, and studying that. And then Thursday, kind of look at it, the game as a whole, all the tips that we got from the first couple of days of the week, start applying those tips to how I watch the game, watch a full couple games, and then Friday, man, just try to, like I said, repeat Thursday, do the tips and whatever the case may be, and try to walk myself through how I think he will call a game and what plays and this and that. And Saturday, man, review it just a little bit, but I try to keep my mind fresh away from it just because the work's been put in, man. Try not to overstimulate myself, because at the end of the day, that's when I start, trying to do too much. I'm second guessing this and trying to, this is coming, so let me, you know what I mean? And then that's when you're out of position. So Friday is really my last day of real deal film study. Saturday, I kind of look it over a little bit and rest and relax, man, and go out there and Sunday do what it do.
It's true. It's true when we say thinking kills, right?
Yeah.
You think and you're done, correct?
100%, man. If you think too much, man, the people on this level too fast, too physical. If you think a second too slow, man, it's a bad day for you. So you got to keep your mind fresh.
100%, and it's clearly worked very well for you here. Bradley, I want to talk about your head coach. So many people in the outside world fascinated with his personality and the way that he approaches things. What stands out to you about your head coach and the impact that he's made on this team?
It's two things. How he's the same person each and every day, no matter what the outcome of the game was, no matter what the outcome of practice was. He's the same person each and every day. He's going to be the same, joking, require the best out of you. He embodies all of that into one. So that's why one thing I will say, he's the same every day. And the second thing that makes him such a good coach is he does a good job of keeping everything into perspective. It's so easy to veer off and think about bigger picture and think about, oh man, I didn't do this, so this is not going to happen, or whatever the case may be. And he does a good job just kind of reeling everything in, letting you know that, man, this step that you took set up it came from all the steps that you took in the past, and this is how you applied it. You know what I mean? Just overall just brings everything back to the present and to now, and it allows you to really see, like, okay, where you were and where you at now. So that's one thing he does really well, man. And he's helped me out a lot on the mental aspect of just being a leader, being a great player, being whatever it may be. He's always there in my corner just to talk me off that ledge or whatever the case may be, and help me through those hard times.
Well, obviously you concentrate on the defensive side of the ball. You've been in the league at your 6 years. You've been around a bit. You've seen, big, strong, or fast players, all different types of players. What do you think of when you watch your guys on offense between Tyreek Hill and Waddle, and just the speed of a game that's already very fast when you see these guys?
Man, it's a freak of nature, man. All those guys, how fast they move, how efficiently they move. Coach Mike always talks about slashing when they catch the ball. So, a lot of guys catch the ball, dance around, and try to make something happen. But those guys just put their foot in the ground and go vertical. And just to see how, how they practice, how they prepare, how they do everything throughout the week, and just to see it on Sundays, it's like watching a game and fast forward. You know what I mean? How fast they move, how fast Tyreek shoots down the field. Waddle does the same thing, and A-Chain, Raheem. We just got so much speed, man. It's dope to see them put it all together, and they're still physical. Everybody just thinks we're a fast team, thinks we're going to try to run you around you, but we got guys who are fast, but will drop that shoulder and play physical football. So that's always, when you got that combination, man, it's hard to stop.
So we'll get you out of here on this note then. You mentioned Tyreek Hill and that he's getting a lot of MVP buzz. For anyone out there that might be on the fence, why should Tyreek Hill be the MVP of the National Football League this year?
I feel like he should be the MVP because, man, he's the biggest game changer in this league, I feel like, man. No matter what, I just always bring back to week one, man. We were down bad. We were not down bad, but, we were fighting. Defense was not who we are today, kind of giving up some big plays, and it was on our offense to go down and win the game, man. And that 1-10 connection is always so strong. And just to see how he separates, whenever the biggest moment calls for him to be big, man, he goes out there and does it. So if it's not going to be Tyreek, it got to at least be Tua, man. So we got two high MVP caliber players on our team, man. I'm excited for whoever wins that award. I know it'll be one of those two guys, though.
One last quick one for me, Bradley. Watching your cousin Nick, I mean, that injury was horrible in Cleveland. How have you spoken with him, and how is he hanging in there physically and mentally?
Yeah, man, just try to reach out and show my love and support, man. And, man, it's, with a guy like that, man, he's going to bounce back and put everything he has into the rehab process, man. And it's unfortunate that he had to go through that. And it makes you sick to your stomach when you see a player of that caliber, man. And, especially a guy that shares the same last name as you, man. You never want to see him go down, never want to see him have a bad day. But the guy he is, the warrior he is, I know he's going to bounce back and be a better version of himself, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. He's been a sensational player, as have you been. So congratulations, Bradley, on all the success. Best of luck with the rest of the season, man. We know you got a lot of big, lofty goals there, and we're excited to watch you cut it loose.
No doubt. Appreciate y'all.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Let's talk ball. Okay, we had a matchup between two of the NBA's top teams last night. Timberwolves came into the game winning 3 in a row. 9 of 10 took on Joel Embiid and the 76ers. Now, it was a tight contest through 3 quarters here, okay, but the Sixers blew things open in the 4th, pulling away for a 127-114 win. Joel Embiid pouring in 51 points, 12 boards, his 7th career 50-point contest. And after the game, Philly head coach Nick Nurse had a lot to say about the big man's offensive prowess, but also wanted to take the opportunity to praise his defense.
Yeah, he's, again, continuing to be super aggressive, I think. He's continuing to get the ball, in areas where he feels really comfortable, putting pressure on, making them guard him on the drives and at the basket, getting to the free throw line quite a bit. I thought there was a step forward defensively tonight. I thought he made a lot of plays, changed a lot of shots, took a swing and a few more shots, made a miss, even ones he didn't get a hand on or a finger on or whatever. But I thought he was pretty active defensively tonight.
It really makes you realize just how good Joel Embiid is. I feel like we don't talk about that enough.
We don't, because it's pre-December 25th and they didn't make it far enough in the in-season tournament, I guess, for most of us. But you are right, and I do wonder, now that he got over the MVP hump last year and there's no longer going to be that as the driving force around the Joel Embiid conversation. And Dad, for a lot of people, the worry for them coming into this year was, all right, the James Harden situation went about as poor as you could have possibly imagined. Not all of it was James's fault, but now that he walked out the door, we looked around and everyone wondered, well, is it going to be enough? The talk all offseason was, do you get rid of him knowing you're not going to be able to directly or adequately replace him? And the 76ers thus far, Joel Embiid performing this well hasn't been the thing that surprised me there, Dad. Tyrese Maxey's 35 last night with 5 made threes, to me, is the thing that's going to go a lot further in whatever this team's able to become, offsetting the loss of James Harden. If Maxey keeps playing like that consistently at an all-star level, they're going to be in really good shape in that bottleneck with them, the Bucks, and the Celtics at the top of the East.
Yeah, so that was going to be the question. Could Tyrese Maxey be enough, with Harden gone, to help lift? And right now, he has absolutely proven he can be enough. He's averaging, I think, 26. You mentioned 35 last night, 15 in the 4th quarter. So being a clutch guy as well. And so that's been great to see for them, because you hate to see when a talent like Embiid ends up getting kind of wasted by getting close but not being able to get over the hump, with the process and everything. But Embiid, what he's doing is crazy. I mean, when you start putting it into historic numbers, and with the scoring that goes on in the NBA, sometimes that's hard to do. So you look at consistency. You just look at the game last night. He scores 19 of their 26 points in the 3rd quarter. But he is on a 12-game streak of 30-plus, 10-plus rebounds. 12-game streak. That's the longest streak is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 16 games, 71 season. I mean, that to me is what's so impressive, is where the company is getting and going back to the consistency of the big man days. Because that type of player, that true 5, right, that just sits in the paint, has been gone for a while in the NBA. You get revisited every now and then with a player like Embiid who can just pound it on down low. But the big guys are so versatile nowadays, but he's about as close as you can get to a guy that can play down in the paint and play with the power that he plays with. So he's top 5 in both scoring. He's number 1 in scoring, and he's 5th in rebounds. He's heading for an MVP season. I don't think there's any doubt about that right now, but there's still time. We'll see. And they beat a good Minnesota team. Minnesota's 20-6.
Minnesota's the first place team in the Western Conference right now. Like, I admittedly do not check the NBA standings every day at this point, because we're not in that time of year yet, at least for me mentally. And I looked up as we were getting ready for the show today and saw them 2.5 games clear of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then the Denver Nuggets sitting at 3rd technically in the West right now. So, this Minnesota, you want to talk about bigs, Dad? We had written them off last year, bringing Rudy Gobert over to go Twin Towers with Karl Anthony Towns. It wasn't working. We weren't sure about the mix, and it seems to have been really singing so far this season between them and Anthony Edwards.
I think the casual fan, the only thing they knew about Minnesota was Rudy Gobert getting choked out by Draymond Green.
Yeah.
you realize the top two teams in the West are Minnesota and Oklahoma City. I mean, that is, and we still obviously have a long way to go, but yeah, Minnesota is playing some ball, but Philly, and you mentioned that 3-horse race there with Boston and Milwaukee and Philadelphia, and how that one ends up in the battle coming out of the East and the players. It's going to be really, really fun to watch. And I think what we're learning is don't win the in-season tournament, right? Because you have more energy to play. And if you win it, you just start losing because you've spent all your energy on the in-season tournament. The in-season tournament, the NBA doesn't want it to be like the par 3 contest before the Masters. Nobody that won the par 3 on that Wednesday has ever won the Masters, so nobody tries to win it. And we're 1 year into the in-season tournament. Everybody's going, uh-oh, don't win this thing because you're going to be worn out after it. Forgetting the fact you have basically a 40-year-old and two older players as your leaders.
It is funny to think about because I was watching PTI yesterday and Tony and Wilbon had Kendrick Perkins on and I couldn't hear it. It was in a bar. All I saw was the headline, "Are the Lakers suffering from in-season tournament fatigue?" And my initial reaction was, what are we doing here? But you're right, Dad, in that their team is led by an older player. And I always liken it back to when I was getting ready for my pro day and training for that. In the lead up to that, during that week, they said they want you to go out and run about 3 days before you're going to go to your pro day and touch about 90%. You want to rev the engine, but you don't want to go all the way and floor that thing because you want to peak at the right time here. The Lakers had to kind of floor it in the middle of the season, and the NBA sort of convinced these guys to all give out and give probably, if they were being honest, way more effort than we usually give at this portion of the year because especially for a guy like LeBron James, a veteran team like the Lakers led by him and Anthony Davis, they understand their goals are the postseason, and so you're usually able to think about how you structure your effort, your conditioning, playing yourself into shape accordingly, and all of a sudden they had to floor that thing to go and get themselves that nice new banner. So I'm not totally surprised, but Dad, the NBA season has so many of these ebbs and flows that I'm not going to go too crazy blaming the tournament for this, considering all the good it gave us just not too long ago.
Yeah, they've lost 4 of 5 since the tournament. Their only win was against the Spurs. And then they promptly lost to the Spurs. They beat the Spurs, and then they lost to the Spurs, who at one point the losing streak was the only one bigger was Detroit's losing streak. So, and you throw in the fact that, not many team superstars are in the 40-year-old range, right? Where they're that old, and your other star is a big man who often gets nicked up. So I'm sure it's just an outlier. I'm kind of just having fun with this one about what players are putting into this. But you are seeing players put more into it at this point of the season than maybe you've seen in the past. So it's just obviously too small of a sample size to go in just the first year of it, but maybe something to kind of keep an eye on.
It is going to be interesting to see how the NBA spins a lot of this because much like we talked about going into the Major League Baseball season this year, we had the pitch clock changes and they were able to point to increased ratings, things that were improved about the overall product for Major League Baseball that seemed to correlate directly with that or at least very tangentially show. For the NBA, we know it was the in-season tournament, but also the rules related to postseason awards. You have to play X amount of games. I think it's 65 games to be eligible for all NBA teams, Defensive Player of the Year award, stuff like that. And between the effort from the in-season tournament and while, guys like Kawhi Leonard Kawhi Leonard's played every game so far this season. Kawhi Leonard has played every game for the Clippers so far in this regular season. He claims it's more about health than any rules and has nothing to do with that. But Dad, I do wonder if across the board, as we start to near this midway point where we start to naturally take stock of the NBA season, if we'll see some of the changes the league's made reflected in an increased availability of some of their star players in critical moments.
Yeah, it'll be interesting the backdrop of this, of where this leads. Don't know. Right now, LeBron's played a hell of a lot of games as well this year.
excited as we march towards the college football playoff to be joined next by a man who's going to be tasked with going out there and trying to get his team to the national championship, Pac-12 champion, and adding to the hardware case, Coach, I saw just recently named AP Coach of the Year now to go with the number of other Coach of the Year honors you've received. Kalen DeBoer, kind enough to join us here now. Coach, how you doing?
I'm great. Appreciate you guys having me on the show.
You know, while you want the hardware of a national championship, it's got to be pretty nice that, you know, you're winning these Coaching of the Year and get some hardware to put in your own trophy case.
Yeah, these when you're the head coach and it's Coach of the Year awards, these are all about the team, the coaching staff, the players. It wouldn't be possible without them. And just blessed to be in this position where got a lot of great things that have happened over the course of this season and even last season. And, you know, fortunately get a chance to be the head coach of this great program. And, you know, these awards are a part of that. So very blessed.
Coach, you mentioned this kind of feeling like it built off of last season where you came in and had a lot of success early on. You and Michael Penix Jr. and the rest of this team laid the foundation for what's come this year. I'm curious, when did you know in the lead up to this season, early on, that this team was capable of the kind of things you guys have gone out here and done?
Yeah, I think we knew at the end of last year, you know, and just the progression of how last season went. The talent is a big piece of it, but just the chemistry and the way that these guys work, we're always improving, and we knew we hadn't met our ceiling yet as a football team and a football program. And then you kind of look at December to January and all these guys that have opportunities to move on to the NFL and kind of start their careers at the next level, one by one, starting with a Michael Penix, you know, choosing to come back and improve his growth and development as a football player and as a person, but also realizing what we could do, the special journey that we were on and wanting to continue that, and these guys coming back. And so it's been a mission that's not just been a couple months here. It's been something that's really, you know, grown, and here we are. It wasn't easy. It never is. I've been a part of championship teams, and there's the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, the injuries that come your way, the tight games where you need a break or two to go your way. But I think, you know, the resiliency of this football team being tested isn't just even about this fall. It's about, you know, even last season and how we got to 11-2 record a year ago.
And then there's preparation. You know, during the regular season, you're preparing week to week with a bye occasionally. College football is unique in that last game after the conference championship, you get a long wait until your next game, whether it's a bowl game or in this case, you know, the semifinals. But take people inside and talk about the difference. Last year, your team was getting ready for the Alamo Bowl, still a bowl game, a nice game. But this year, you're getting ready for the semis of a national championship run. What's the difference in preparation for a bowl and then a playoff bowl?
Sure. You know, one thing that was different even just at the beginning of December is this year we're playing for a conference championship. And so that week, you know, it's just added practice time and just furthered our, you know, elongated our season. And those are intense practices because there's a lot at stake and you're playing for something big. And we kind of really knew we needed to win that game to get to the point we're at now. So the intensity of those practices were great. You know, we gave the guys a week off, a week and a half off, you know, but away from the practices, still lifting, running, training. And then finals are kind of in that same time period. Practiced 3 times just to try to stay sharp, give their guys a few days away, sent them home, and we're just getting back going here now. And just the intensity now, the buildup, you know, knock the dust off a little bit, just getting back to the technical things. We'll be doing that here in the next day or two, just now dialing in on the Texas game plan, getting ready to play, you know, the semifinal game.
And certainly want to get into the opponent that you're going to face. But you mentioned the Pac-12 championship, Coach. How did you use maybe as motivation a lot of the conversation you heard about your team? You guys beat Oregon earlier in the year on your home field, and ever since then, everyone talked about, oh, look at this Oregon team's done since then. Everyone had you guys as underdogs in that game. Was that something you guys acknowledged? Did you use that as fuel? How did that work in the lead up?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say it added to the chip on our shoulder, you know, and there's even the Oregon State game we were predicted to lose, just in a lot of people's minds. And we knew that was going to be a challenge. And that was the conference, each and every week, especially for us in November, where we faced, 3 ranked teams at that time. That's not even including the Oregon game, which was earlier in the year. And then, of course, the Apple Cup, which is a rivalry game, and you throw the records out whenever those games happen. So we've been tested many times. The conference championship, comes our way. And, this isn't anything. I mean, we knew we were facing a very good Oregon football team that, like you said, was continuing to grow themselves and build. But, yeah, we had a chip on our shoulder and, being predicted to not be on the right end of it, really with where we're at as a football program, it doesn't really mess with our swagger, mess with our confidence. We know internally who we are. We know that the people who are, trying to predict these things, that's all it is. And so the same case with us going into this next week, this next game, it's about us. It's about focusing on who we are, making sure we take care of our business, the preparation leading to our performance on game day.
So coming to the end of that Pac-12 game, when you run out the last 2 minutes of that game and you're going to win the game, and you're no stranger to last team standing. At Sioux Falls, you won 3 NAIA football championships, so you're used to being the last man standing. So when you win that game against Oregon, the Pac-12 title, do you feel, though nothing's guaranteed, you're in it, you're in the Final Four and there should be no question involved?
Yeah, I don't want to sound naive, but yeah, I did feel that was the case. I know that anything can happen, as you said, but I think a lot of it had to do with our record, just how we played in that game, and then who we were playing, number 3 versus number 5. A one-loss team. And so just really felt like there was a lot of things that showed how strong of a football team we had. I think even how we played, just showing physical toughness throughout the game, throughout the season, and building on that and being balanced in our attack, run to pass, and just playing really sound defense, strong defense in that game against, again, a very good football team. So, yeah, I don't want to sound naive that we knew it was 100%, but we were fairly confident.
With that in mind, were you stunned to see what happened with Florida State at the same time too?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of knew that there was some questions on what would happen, and unfortunately, because they controlled everything they did, you feel bad for the situation that happened there, because as a coach, and I think that way first and foremost, right, the things that you could control, you did, and that's how we look at our season. We controlled everything we could, and we're undefeated with that conference championship. So you certainly, feel for that situation and kind of how it's all played out there.
Oh, let me tell you, I have been saying it. I'm sick for them. As like you said, as a coach, all you can do is say buy in and believe in what we're doing. And all they did was win every single game with a backup and a third string quarterback. And yet, because of an injured quarterback, they didn't get in. So I'll say it. I was sick for them, and I think they should have had the opportunity. But this is where we are. So you're going to play Texas in the Sugar Bowl. So what do you do with the extra time instead of week-to-week preparation and scouting with the extra time? Is there part of you sometimes that says, my God, we have way too much time. We may overthink this thing?
Well, honestly, no. With signing day being tomorrow, and just it's this space that we're in right now as a coaching staff, where you're trying to manage the roster that you have with the roster for the future. Just a lot of things happening that you're balancing, and our staff has done a great job. We work well together, communicate great. And, there's just a lot of pieces along with the game planning, getting ready for Texas, that you're trying to balance as a staff. So we've been plenty busy. We were on the road there a couple of weeks during the contact period, and now we're back here in the offices and really trying to put that final piece of the game plan together, those final touches as we start kicking off practices, getting ready for the Sugar Bowl.
Coach, Dad mentioned it before. You've been involved in the game and coaching college football at so many different levels along your journey in different spots. And you just mentioned it right now. You've got signing day going on. There's been the transfer portal. Name, image, and likeness is a change. You guys are getting ready to go play in the Big Ten next year. As someone that's been around this sport for so long, how comfortable are you with the direction it's all going now with the changes that we've seen?
Yeah, I think you have to evolve. I mean, I feel that as a coach with anything, as the X's and O's, let's just take the simplest. I mean, offense and defensive schemes. If you're not evolving, if you're not continuing to adapt with the times, you're going to get left behind. And so you focus on what you can control. You focus on those things, and you try to prioritize, and you try to just make sure that you're, evolving yourself. And so it is important, as you mentioned, all those things playing out. And, we understand the future of college athletics, college football isn't slowing down as far as the changes that are coming our way. So be ready for anything and everything. Expect the unexpected. And that's just part of the world we're in today. So it's probably not just college athletics, college football. I think that's just the way of life. So worry about what you control, be your best every day. And just surround yourself with great people you can trust to go attack anything that comes your way.
That's such great words of advice, because everybody may not like what's going on, but it's where we are. And so you better learn a way to deal with it. It's adapt or die mentality, kind of as you said. So like I said, we do want to get into the game. But one other thing about a bowl, if it's not this priority of a semifinals, is a lot of these bowl practices coaches love for the young players. Does that kind of get lost? And listen, for good reason, you're trying to play for a national championship, but what happens to the young players? Because this is a lot of times the time where they get a lot of work.
Yeah, I think, we did some of those practices even before the guys took a couple days to get away and go home. And it's fun for them. It's fun for us. And it shows that, hey, we're excited about you in the future here in this program, and we have a lot of promising pieces that are showing that, this program's going to continue on to be at this level for many years to come. But the intensity of the Pac-12 championship, you're really kind of focused on those key, the guys that are on the football field. And now, again, like you said, you're getting prepared for the Sugar Bowl and the Final Four semifinal game. The space did get a little more kind of condensed than with the focus on the young guys than a normal maybe bowl season and bowl prep. But these guys know and understand the situation and are here to do anything they can to help our football team. And they know their time will continue to come. So we're on the football field, we're working, we're in the weight room, and so that's making each of these guys better in the meantime.
They're all putting the work in. You mentioned you and your staff are putting the work in. Let's talk Texas, Coach. I've said this might be offensively, between the firepower on the field, between the play callers, the best offensive football game we see all year. I know you're someone who's cut their teeth on offense and been associated with that side of the ball. But as the head coach right now, do you find yourself peeking over and seeing Steve Sarkisian and the stuff he's doing on offense there too, and having kind of that, admiration, mutual respect, but also like, hey, I want to go out there and show that we're not anybody's second place going in this game with the quality of offense that's going to be out there?
Yeah, it's impressive, Coach Sark, with what he's done there just over the last couple of years, and we played them a year ago in the Alamo Bowl, and it was impressive then. And now, just like I think you'd hope it would be seen in our program, you can see the growth of the team there. You're talking offensively and what he does, and just a great mind when it comes to play calling and putting together a plan. The history, and I didn't know him at the time, but of course he's been involved in this program too, as his time as a head coach. And so, I think there's so many people that have played into where we're at today. I'd give him some credit for, where we're at now too, and what Coach Pete did and so forth, just getting to this point where we're at, building this program up to the level of national success that we're having.
That is interesting. You're right. It was December 29th last year. You beat them in the Alamo Bowl 27-20. Do you take anything from that game as you prepare for this game as far as, scouting and looking into it?
Well, I think there's a little bit of familiarity now, with the players that return. Coaching, just kind of maybe the way that you're viewed a year ago, and understanding maybe the things that were exploited either way, whether it's us to them or them to us. So you're always kind of looking at that piece, but then you just still got to look and dive into the transformation of their team offensively, defensively, and what they look like now. But understanding that, each staff looks at your team a certain way, whether, your identity, and will attack you, and so, that certainly is something that the familiarity, I think, helps us understand. It would help them understand kind of what we're all about, and, our players as well.
And certainly everyone familiar with the two great quarterbacks that are going to be playing in this game. For you, Coach, you've known Michael now through a couple of stops here, but finishes as a Heisman finalist this season. What has he meant to you as a coach, this team, and what are people going to get as they start to dive into him as a prospect for the next level when they get Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback?
I mean, personally, this guy is just – the journey he's been on, and his trust and faith in myself and of course the coaches that are around this program, it just means everything. He's just such a down-to-earth, live it in the moment. The adversity he's been through, I think, just it shows itself in so many ways as far as how his attitude of gratitude is, and him wanting to give to his teammates and how important they are to him. He is a team guy through and through. I know a lot has been seen on how he, embraces that. It's what we see day to day, every single day. And, man, it warms your heart as a coach to see, not just one of your best players, but your quarterback who's up for the Heisman, finalists. And, you're in good hands when your leader is that hard of a worker, that great of a player. So it's his journey. The adversity he's experienced, I think, translates to those moments we've been in. I said it a year ago, I'll say it again. When you need, touchdown, your back's to the wall, you need a response to maybe a score that was made or something that happened on the other side of the ball. He's ready to perform and just focus on that next play and what he can control, just like he had to when injuries came his way. So as far as moving on to the next level, I just don't know how his game doesn't translate. As a passer, his accuracy, the arm strength, he's just, when it comes to football IQ and processing, he does it extremely fast. He's a great athlete. We try to use the arm piece of it, but he can make things happen with his feet. Just everything he's experienced, I think he's a mature guy, and we're excited about what the future holds for him, moving on to the NFL.
Coach, one thing, my son and I do a show together, both being linemen on different sides of the ball. We know it's not all about football. It's about food as well. So you're going to the Sugar Bowl. You're going down to that region. Do you have a favorite type of food from that New Orleans region?
Man, I've never been there. I've never been there my entire life. There's most of the place in the country. That is one place. Other than flying in, flying out, maybe a quick stop for a recruiting trip or something like that. But as far as just like being there for any amount of time above and beyond a day or two. So experiencing it, for our team. And this is the first, with the ties and alliances to bowls, this is the first time, not just our program, but the entire Pac-12 has ever had someone in the Sugar Bowl. So, that's a pretty cool experience. We're looking forward to some of those things you're talking about and seeing the culture and the food piece along with that. I'm a fan, so we're looking forward to that.
Coach, one word, beignets. If nothing else, beignets. It's a wonderful pastry with powdered sugar on top with some coffee. Oh, chef's kiss on that one, so please try that.
I love it. I've had that many times, been told to me already since the announcement was made, so I'll take you up on that. I have all the trust in the world in you.
There we go. I was going to say, I know, Coach, you're a man we've talked about in the past, a fan of the Portillo's cake shake and everything that comes with that, too. So you're a man of great taste in this area. Yes. So I trust you're going to do the right things down there, both on and off the field. Coach, couldn't be more excited for you guys. It's been awesome to watch and cover your team all this year and last year. Best of luck with everything in the lead up to this game. I know we're all looking forward to it.
Thank you. You guys are great. I appreciate having me on the show.
All right, everybody, welcome back to GoJo and Golic. And we got a little bit of breaking news here, courtesy of our good friend, Nicole Auerbach, senior college football writer over at The Athletic, that Florida State has scheduled an emergency meeting of its Board of Trustees for Friday morning. This is the first step, in her words, a concrete step needed in any effort to enable the school to take legal action against the ACC to challenge the grant of rights. Dad, we came on this show yesterday when all this news started to trickle out and said the last thing on earth anybody should do in any walk of life is doubt motivated rich people, especially in a sport like college football, where so often those motivated rich people also aren't bound by anything resembling common sense. And this is just another example of that. About 17 days after Florida State got snubbed by the CFP committee, we are now getting to the point where they are ready to rattle the tectonic plates of the sport yet again.
And the winner always in all of these things are going to be lawyers and their billable hours, because what's going on now with lawyers looking to find whether loopholes or a way around what's holding everything back. And we knew the ACC had been complaining about obviously the realignment going on and then how the money has been distributed, and it should be distributed differently. And the ACC is going to distribute the money differently. So they did kind of, you want to say the word acquiesce a bit to Florida State and say, we will distribute the money differently. But now it's all about the grant of rights, right? That the ACC officials have basically said, this is ironclad contract that runs through 2036. That's as long as the TV rights deal with ESPN. And it is ironclad. And the buyout for any team, if they wanted to leave the conference, would be 3 times the operating budget of the ACC. So that would come out to about $120 million as an exit fee, let alone getting your way around the grant of rights issue. So That's the battle right now. And as one official put it, it would be a hell of a court battle that, as I said, the winners will be the lawyers because the billable hours will be incredible. But we have seen through what the committee did that what they think of the ACC. We know what the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be. This is just a further step, Mike, of what the next steps are to eventually get to what Chip Kelly has been talking about and just make football separate from all the other sports, a big lead for Division I or the Power Five and a big league for Group of Five, and here we go. But the process, unfortunately, for a lot of teams is going to take a while to get through.
Yeah, and this has kind of been what's gone on in the last year or so. You mentioned that grant of rights document. Florida State's lawyers, I'd imagine, have been poring over every nook and cranny of that thing right now. Bud Elliott, who covers college football over at 24/7, also hosts the Nolecast, great Florida State podcast, said he expects the FSU Board of Trustees to approve a legal filing today, the first step in an exit from the ACC, and that he thought this might happen 2 weeks ago on the 8th, but Florida State has pushed this thing back, Dad. And you mentioned everything that would come of it. If there's a landing spot right now, we've heard no ties between them and the SEC or the Big Ten, the two conferences everyone assumes they would go for. But I want to go back to this statement from August and Nicole Auerbach's piece on The Athletic. Board of Trustees member and former quarterback Drew Weatherford said in August at a Board of Trustees meeting, it's not a matter of if we leave the ACC, in my opinion. It's a matter of how and when we leave. Not everyone may agree with that, but I feel pretty strongly about that. And then trustee Justin Roth called for Florida State to make an exit plan to get out by August of 2024. So again, the motivated rich people that make the decision have been saying this out in the open. And I've said this for years when it comes to playoff expansion and all the things around that. The minute you see somebody associated with the committee or a conference commissioner say it out loud on record in front of a microphone, it means they've been talking about it for months, if not years, behind closed doors before it's gotten to you now. And so, like everything else in college football, Dad, I was having this conversation with someone the other day who's not as dialed in on the college football scene, who asked, like, hey, like, this wouldn't happen anytime soon. And I said, listen, I'm done thinking that there's a governor on the speed at which college football is going to continue to change. Because we thought that about moves like we saw from USC and UCLA, moves like we saw from Texas and Oklahoma a while back. We thought for so long this idea of super conferences or major realignment was going to take years. And we saw during the pandemic that is not the case. And so I will not be shocked if those kind of goals and lofty timelines for Florida State, and really then, Dad, the beginning of what could be the end for the ACC and so many of the other big-time teams and brand names. Remember, there were 7 teams in the ACC that were kicking the tires like Florida State on some sort of change either in their membership in the conference or the structure of the conference. So they're not going to be the only ones. This is going to be the tip of the iceberg.
And what a mess this has turned into. You mentioned it's Florida State, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina State are those teams that were kicking the tires. So the ACC might be in danger of going bye-bye. And oh, by the way, you just added Stanford, Cal, and SMU. So you brought in 3 teams, 2 from the West Coast, that now who knows what's going to happen to this conference. I mean, everything that's been done so haphazardly as of late, and it's all about self-preservation.
Yep.
What is good for our school? And listen, I understand that. That's why it was laughable. Was it the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12? Way back when, just a couple of years ago, had this, we got each other's back.
The alliance.
We got a handshake. The alliance, man. We are with each other. On that, man, okay? Yeah, that worked out really well. Wait a minute, we could do this and make more money doing that? Okay, we're out. Sorry about that handshake, didn't mean it. It's a joke what's going on. And, Mike, I don't know where this ends because who's in control? Who is going to lead the ship? The latest thing with the NCAA is they want to basically take over NIL, right? That's what's on their mind right now. Haven't heard a word about the realignment or anything going on in the NCAA. So that's my biggest question, because I'm with you. I will not poo-poo anything about time frame, but who does it? Who leads this? Who finally, what Chip Kelly said, who puts that in motion? Who has the power to do it? Is it all the presidents of the Power 5 schools? That's what I have no idea about. We all, or Chip has that idea. It sounds good, but there's just so much going on in different corners of the country right now of what's happening. I have no idea how you get that all together unless you just tell Greg Sankey you're now running the entire show. Then he'd probably find a way that would make sure the SEC was right where it needed to be. But I don't know how it gets to where we all think it's going to go. We all think that's going to be the way it ends up, but how in the hell does it get there?
Well, I've always said there's a book called The Club that's about the formation of the English Premier League. And I said, if you're a college football fan, it should be required reading, because I don't know if there's a more instructive lesson in what could happen with college football than what has gone on with European soccer. Very similar structures because you've got a ton of teams overall in the pyramid of European soccer, but the resources are so vastly different from top to bottom, it often feels like they're playing a very different sport. Sound familiar? Now they got promotion and relegation, which is a little different. Right. It makes it feel fun and exciting. But watching one of the headlines we woke up to today that we weren't going to get to on the show at this point, but there was a court ruling over in Europe that has cleared the way for the renewed possibility of the European Super League, something that got shot down during the pandemic. This idea of what if we took all that Premier League stuff, the championship model, and made it even more exclusive and got even more of your favorite good teams all in one big barrel and did it there. And we got a court ruling that basically said today that UEFA can't stop that. This wasn't an endorsement of it, but it's going to be a conversation that comes up again. So, Dad, I think that's always where this ends in the world of college football. And who gets to decide that is either if they can get together a third party who would be capable of organizing something like this, or the people involved coming together and saying, we think we can put together a group of people to run this thing. We can, as the presidents, because like you said, it's always presidents, trustees, those people making the decisions that are maybe whispered about in their ear from the people like the Greg Sankeys of the world, the conference commissioners and the athletic directors. But that's who's ultimately going to do all this.
Yeah, and I just wonder how it gets formed. I really do, because there has to be that step, right? There has to be an acknowledgement that the way to go is to separate from all the other sports, and then how you go about doing it. So while as I said, I agree with you. I said the timeline could be sped up. This timeline seems like, my God, when is it going to be?
Well, Dad, I mean, we thought the same thing, and then we imagined a whole college football playoff committee out of thin air to govern the sports championship. So, again, never doubt motivated rich people as Florida State's Board of Trustees get ready to meet and decide their future.
GoJo and Golic. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. Time for Thursday Night Football on Prime. It's on, baby. So we have a game tonight with big playoff implications in the NFC. 2 7-7 teams going head-to-head, Saints, Rams. And ahead of this game, Matthew Stafford was asked, does this feel like preparing for a playoff game?
Yeah, if playoff games were played 3.5 days after you played your last game. But, it's a more than that, it's just a jam-packed week of trying to get to know everything you can about the New Orleans Saints and how they play ball. But obviously we're not immune to understanding what the implications are. But this is another football game we got to get prepared for in a short amount of time, both physically and mentally. That's what we're doing right now, except for when I'm sitting here talking to you guys.
After a good game that we had as a team, you're like, man, I'll play. Can we play today? You want to get back out there because you feel good. And so, I think just really it's in the mindset, as I've learned over my 10 years. Like, you got to set your mind for Thursdays. They're going to happen whether you want them to or not. I think players have talked about that ad nauseum. And you got to bring the energy and the effort.
Okay, Rams have won 4 of 5. Saints have won 2 in a row. Guys, what do we think going into this one?
So, Dad, you are getting ready to call this game. You're actually out in Los Angeles right now, hanging at a hotel and not my apartment, which has been the subject of a lot of scrutiny.
Yes, it has, Mike. Yes, it has.
And I'm sure I'll hear more about that before the segment's over. But I'm going to try and point you in the direction of this game, Dad, because, again, while the records are identical, I really don't think there is much of a comparison between these two teams. Now, the status of Chris Olave is going to go a long way for the New Orleans Saints, no doubt in this game. But, Dad, just looking, the Saints and the Falcons came into the season with 2 of the easiest schedules in the NFL. And when I look at the teams that the Saints have managed to beat, I'm not overly heartened by their chances of going up against what I think is, when not injured, an actual playoff team in the Rams. The Saints have beaten the Titans, the Panthers, the Patriots, the Colts, good team, the Bears, the Panthers, and the Giants. Not exactly a murderer's row of outfits that have actually gotten them in the win column this year, Dad. So as you've gotten ready for this one, are you more impressed by the Saints than I am at this point?
Well, let me just add to that. They're 1-5 against teams 500 or better. That's what the Saints are. They just it's kind of like the Dolphin talk, right? You can't beat that team that's 500 or better.
Dolphin talk fixed Aaron Rodgers, all right?
Yeah. Well, there you go. The one thing about this interesting in the beginning is looking at a short time prep for a game. And the difference of if it's a division game, it's easier because you know the opponent. This is not. These are teams that aren't in the same division. So the prep is a little, while it's more mental anyway in a short week, still to get to know, basically what a division team's going to do. Here, there's a lot more involved because you don't play these teams a lot. So from preparation standpoint, there's a lot more on your plate in a short week if it's not a division game. Rams are clearly playing better now. They're clearly on a roll and have been on a roll, especially Matthew Stafford. Last 4 games, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception, by the way, since week 12. That's those 12 touchdowns that leads the NFL. Kyron Williams missed 4 games this year and has been just a terror in running the ball and getting into the end zone. And then obviously with Cooper Kupp coming back from the hammy, he's had an ankle nick, but Puka Nacua, the rookie, has been the consistent guy. But when they're healthy, that 1-2 punch has been fantastic. And on defense for them, here's such an interesting stat for me that I had to say. The last few games for Aaron Donald, he has the last 5 games, just a half a sack, 8 quarterback hits, and 2 tackles for losses. But he leads the league in pressures over Myles Garrett over the last number of years by a lot. He has 120 some more than the next D tackle, and he leads Myles Garrett by 40 some with quarterback pressures. It's ridiculous. I think one of the big things in this game for me, Mike, is your position, the offensive line. Weeks 1 through 9, this offensive line was 29th in pressure rate, giving up. Since then, they're 6th. So they have all stepped up their game on the offensive side of the ball because the defense New Orleans has been the place to talk about. The last couple of games, no touchdowns given up. This defense is the only defense in the last, I believe it is 4 years, to be top 10 in the scoring defense, this New Orleans defense. So that's going to be, to me, the key is what does this New Orleans defense do against all of a sudden this high-powered Rams offense? We've seen high power out of them down, back in the day a little bit, but not as of late. Certainly the injury to Cooper Kupp has hurt that, but they have got back on that roll. And as we talk about, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. How are you playing now? And they're on a roll right now. They're playing well right now, and they finish up, as we said, with this game, and then the Giants, and then San Francisco.
Yep.
And remember, San Francisco could have the number 1 seed locked up by that game. And if they do, maybe they're going to rest some players, which could be a benefit for the Rams. New Orleans has this game, then Tampa Bay and Atlanta. So 2 division games. They've lost it. They've actually lost to both those teams the first time around. So a little tougher road for them. And for the NFC South, it's the winner of the division is in, and I don't think there's going to be a wild card. While the Rams are making that run for the wild card, which obviously San Francisco has already taken that division. So both teams playing better now. I lean more toward what this New Orleans defense is going to do against all of a sudden in the last few weeks this really high-powered offense that's been since I believe week 12, not only with Stafford, I talked about the passing game, but they have been number 1 in the NFL in the rush since week 11. So they've run the ball better than everyone. Give Kyron Williams, again, a lot of credit for that, a guy who missed 4 games. So they're getting it done on the ground and in the air. But watch out for New Orleans deep ball. Derek Carr will let it go deep, and they'll try and hit the big plays. Olave, as you mentioned, the big question with the ankle. And we don't talk enough, I think, about Alvin Kamara. He leads the running backs in receptions with targets and receptions with 68. He is always a threat running the ball or catching it out of the backfield. You know the NFL today, swing the ball out to your guy, get him the ball, whether it's a receiver, whether it's a running back, get him the ball quick. They do that with Olave. They do that with Kamara. So these are the way they get those yards after the catch. So that's the task for the Rams defense is give up the short pass, make the tackle immediately. These are 2 teams, you're absolutely right. They are playing for their playoff lives right now, for sure. And New Orleans knows the deal. They know they have to win the division to get into the playoffs. With the Rams, obviously, it's a different story. So while it's a short week, while you rest up as much as you can, I mean, everybody's obviously going to be laying it on the line tonight, knowing their rest of their season future could lie in this.
Yeah, I always go back to, and you mentioned the Rams offensive line and how much that's changed and how much of an important factor. Because when we talk about all the things, they're pretty far down on the list of what people mention publicly talking about this team, because it's easy to get distracted. Puka Nacua has been a revelation. You've got your best receiver in Cooper Kupp that came back. Matthew Stafford rightly at the center of this conversation because nothing moves without him playing top 5 football. But I go back to, and in recent weeks it's waned a bit, you allowed 0 sacks facing Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns defense. That right now isn't just this season good. The Cleveland Browns defense, I saw Nate Tice from The Athletic post this, in terms of success rate on defense, is like one of the number 1 defenses in the last 10 or 15 years. Something insane like that. And you were able to hold them and Myles Garrett to a goose egg in that game. Now, you gave up a couple the next week against the Baltimore Ravens. Very different defense you went up against. Right. You gave up 3 against the Washington Commanders, who mortgaged away 2 of their best defensive pass rushers at the trade deadline. So they can still be had. But, Dad, when you combine a much improved and healthier group up front with a running attack that's changed drastically in its approach this season, I have a lot of faith in that group up front for the Rams. Yeah. And I know you can't pick this game. The Rams are 4-point favorites according to DraftKings Sportsbook. I would take the Rams in this one, and I'm tempted at home, even on a short week, to take the points in here, knowing that one of the Saints' best offensive weapon, even if Olave's on the field and expected to play, is going to be less than 100%.
It's one of the biggest turnarounds is that offensive line for the Rams, as I just mentioned. Really quickly, I want to put numbers to it with Aaron Donald. Since 2018, he has 126 more pressures than the closest defensive tackle. Overall, he has 466. Next is Myles Garrett at 442. All the next guys on the list are D-ends. He's a D tackle that wreaks havoc in the middle of that O-line.
They've got a D tackle that wreaks havoc. Coming up next, we'll go across town to the Chargers for a punter wreaking havoc on footballs and social media next. right, guys, time to finish off the show the way we always do. This, that, and the third, 3 quick stories to send you off on in the rest of your day. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us, leave us a 5-star rating, and check us out live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on DraftKingsNetwork.com, Samsung TV Plus, Roku, and more. And if you have to miss us for whatever reason, you can't get here live and you didn't tell your friends to come here live, you can always get us wherever you get your podcasts and catch up with great guests like we had today. Bradley Chubb from the Miami Dolphins, one of their star pass rushers, and Kalen DeBoer, the head coach of the Washington Huskies that are getting ready for the college football playoff. You can also get that right here on YouTube as soon as the show is done at 10 o'clock Eastern every day. Guys, let's get to this and start off with, no surprise, the winners of the internet. But I, for one, am very thankful. The Chargers season has not been what anyone there has wanted. But that didn't stop them from still going and blessing the timeline with absolute heat in the name of helping their punter, Cameron Dicker, campaign for a Pro Bowl spot. Check out what the Chargers were able to do to help their boy out.
Have you ever been victimized by a missed field goal?
No good! Wide to the right! No good!
My name is Cameron Dicker, and I'll kick for you. 50, 40, 30, doesn't matter. I'll make it. Bang! 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 Rain, sleet, or snow, this leg is ready to go. Don't believe me? Ask him.
Cameron Dicker is a really good kicker. He's outstanding, and, I love him.
And I did not edit that. So don't be a and let me kick for you at the Pro Bowl. So go to chargers.com/vote to send me and my leg to kick for you. Vote for me! Vote for me! Pro Bowl 2023, baby, let's go!
I want to apologize first and foremost for saying punter instead of kicker to dear sweet Cameron Dicker, the kicker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that 100% deserves your vote. For anyone that wasn't watching on the DraftKings Network or YouTube, it's essentially what if an injury lawyer's commercial met an I think you should leave sketch and birthed Dad, one of the greatest things I've ever seen on God's internet.
That was phenomenal. That was absolutely phenomenal. I would vote for him just on that alone, that he took the time to do that. And you could tell he didn't edit that at all with Justin Herbert. That thing was awesome. He's made all his extra points. He's only missed one field goal this year. So he's certainly, in line for the Pro Bowl. But to go to that length for a season and a team that has been so underachieving this year, now it's about the personal accomplishments. Now it's about the Pro Bowl. Now it's about the money you make in your contract if you make the Pro Bowl. And then it's about the money you make if you win the Pro Bowl. So good on him for that one.
Yeah, the Chargers were like, we need some good internet clout. We need it to be good. So let's make this video.
I was the other day, I couldn't believe some people were bringing up, like, the Chargers are one of the foremost NFL Twitter accounts, social media accounts. Their schedule release anime videos the last couple of years have been some of my favorite things ever created. And they have a bit on the internet where, like a lot of younger people, millennials, Gen Z, they don't capitalize a lot of proper nouns, capitalize the words that start their tweets. And I saw people making a fuss that when they announced the firing of Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley, that they didn't capitalize the we and we have parted ways. Yeah. And I could not believe people were wasting oxygen on caring that much about grammar in 2023. Get over it. Dad, you're an old school guy, and I can't imagine even you could find brain cells to waste on something like capitalization in the year of our Lord 2023.
Yeah, the punctuation police are just horrid. Because, by the way, this is because of somebody my punctuation is horrible, absolutely horrible. But the bottom line is, when I tweet something or say or write something, and the punctuation is wrong, people still know what the hell I'm saying. All right, so get over it, people. Get over anybody who tweets that should be banned from Twitter when they start doing the pronunciation or the punctuation guide.
That's what we're going to complain about on Twitter in this year. You sure about that?
We got a lot of other stuff we could complain about.
Amen. Yeah. We also have a lot of stuff that we should celebrate, Jesse. So why don't we get to that and one man making the most of his moment.
Yeah, Taylor Heineke. So he was up there wearing, in a presser, wearing a Busch Light sweatshirt, as you can see. A really good look. asked about it, he said, I got fined for drinking Busch Light on the Commanders team plane last year, so they sent me a bunch of stuff. So this is hysterical, gets tweeted out, and then the first comment on the tweet was Busch Light going, heck yeah, brother.
So this is interesting to me, Dad, because you guys actually used to get issued beers walking on the plane, right?
Let me tell you. So you used to walk onto our plane, and at the bottom of the stairs, you got handed a bag with 2 beers in it. Whoever wanted it. And the beautiful thing was there were guys that didn't drink. Like Reggie White always gave me his 2 beers because he did not drink. So now I had 4 beers. And you just kind of add them up around. And yes, it was that was the thing everybody did until I believe the first ones were, I think there were some Minnesota coaches who, when they landed back in Minnesota, as they left, got nailed for DUI. So at that point, police started knowing what the deal was in the NFL, and they would be kind of waiting and, following as the cars left the airport thinking, we were shooting fish in a barrel here. So the NFL realized, I guess we're the bartender here, so maybe we should not do this anymore. But my bigger thing is, how does Heineken not have a Heineken deal?
I couldn't agree more.
Drinking Busch Light. How do you not have a Heineken deal? If you're going to get fined by someone who's sponsoring you and paying you. How Heineken hasn't jumped in on this, I don't know.
Is it not legal to drink beers on the plane now? Like, what did he get fined for?
Well, I think it's against the rules. They stopped. I think so. Is there Jesse? Do you know something different?
My first assumption was that maybe they had some kind of a deal with a different beer company.
No, I listen. We could check into this, but I know the league can't give you beers, so I wonder, can you bring your own? But I don't think you can. I don't think you can drink on the planes anymore.
You're right,
there you go.
Senior.
Our producer just let us know the NFL prohibits alcohol on team charters, which, I mean...
This was all our fault. This was my era's fault.
Truly.
Our fault. Our bad. Sorry about it. We did it.
He got in trouble because someone put it on Instagram.
I was going to say, we had people sneak booze on the team charter when we were in college.
Yeah, come on.
Hard.
You think these guys are drinking on the team plane? Come on.
The late, great Jerome Brown, one of my great friends, he had a briefcase with holes in the top of it, if you were holding it, with spouts sticking out of it, and you open it, and there were like 4/5 of different liquors in there that he would pour on the planes to us. It was a phenomenal contraption.
The boys getting loose playing Boo-Ray in the back of the plane. We used to be a proper country.
Yeah.
I mean, the Boo-Ray on the plane, I'll say it again, the biggest pot ever was $20,000 on the line when I was playing Boo-Ray. And let me tell you what, I had to have the perfect hand to stay, knowing I wasn't going to lose because my hand would shake when you had to drop. But more fights came out of that. You had to stop. All of a sudden, guys weren't paying right away, or you had to pay by check at the next practice. It got out of hand, a little bit out of hand. Maybe the alcohol had something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, blame it on the goose. Got you feeling loose. Jesse, as we get to the third, I don't know what we factor this in for, but getting to just say the sentence, Hulk Hogan dedicates his life to Jesus, announced on his baptism on Twitter, is an incredible statement in 2023.
Yeah, he said, total surrender and dedication to Jesus is the greatest day of my life. No worries, no hate, no judgment, only love. Okay. Heck yeah, brother, right? Am I right?
And does he have to change it up now?
Yeah. Does he have to say heck instead of hell?
How many times did we hear, hell yeah, brother?
Yeah,
I mean, seriously. Iconic line. Does we have to change that up now? I mean, is that a rule? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not really sure. He does join a recent trend of high-profile figures, kind of high-profile figures, probably past their prime, dedicating their lives to Christ. We just did the Daddy Yankee story.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, he's leaving reggaeton and to go and give his life over to Jesus. So apparently that's hot on the street. Yeah. Are either of you preparing for a public baptism I don't know about?
No.
Okay.
No. Hell no, brother.
Well, let me just say this. If you want to be baptized into the Church of GoJo and Golic, I'll go throw water on you for the free. In the meantime, you can just download, subscribe, rate, and review us instead. Leave us a 5-star rating and check us out here live 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern each day. Thanks so much. Enjoy Thursday Night Football. Talk to you tomorrow.